News agency Reuters, in its latest investigative piece, has made damning allegations against the Nigerian army. The series of stories allege the army performs illegal and clandestine abortion procedures on girls and women rescued from insurgent groups. According to the report, about 10,000 procedures have been performed over the last decade. The investigators say that could even be an understatement of how widespread the operations are at military camps in Borno State, northeast of Nigeria. The report says it came to the conclusion after examining some civilian hospital documents and interviewing 33 rescued girls, some soldiers, as well as health workers. The report also accuses the military of killing children suspected to be offspring of Boko Haram insurgents. Now, since the story made the headlines, the military has been fighting back and has so far denied these accusations. According to a 5-page response to Reuters, the military said there was no way such an operation will exist but elude both domestic and international authorities at the camps. They counter-accused the news agency of embarking on a smear campaign to undermine the army's efforts. The statement signed by Major General Jimmy Akpo says, and I quote, "The report is akin to saying Nigerians live on trees." End of quote. It will also go on to give statistics of about 41,000 unharmed children who continue to live in IDP camps in Borno State. Now, the Office of the President has yet to respond to these allegations. However, the Office of former President Goodluck Jonathan, under whose regime the forced and illegal abortions allegedly began, also denied any knowledge of the abortion farm. As you may have guessed, this has caused a stir among the population and sparked debate at all levels of discourse. Now, for the last 2 decades, the army has been fighting insurgents concentrated in the northern part of the country. And while gains have been made, accusations of human rights abuses have occasionally surfaced. So let's talk about this massive expose. Thank you so much for joining us here on The Gathering. I'm Keminni Amanor. Also joining us here are Dr. Tony Ofoyetan. He's Director General, International Institute of Professional Security. We also have Patrick Agbambu. He's President and CEO of Security Watch Initiatives, resident in Abuja, Nigeria. Gentlemen, you're welcome to the square.
Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Before we start our conversation, I want us to take a look at excerpts from the investigation.
While in the bush, I was married off. I had given birth to 3 children and I was pregnant. When I came out of the bush, that's when they brought us back to their military camp. They saw the rashes all over our bodies. We were sick. They came and told me they would give me an injection. They gave me an injection, and when they did that, I lost the pregnancy. I was ill and I was bleeding so much.
They gave me an injection. I felt like I needed to pee, so I went outside towards the stream, away from the building. I squatted down and then blood just started coming out. Turns out it was the pregnancy, but I didn't know. I came back and told them how I was feeling, but still I didn't know. They told us they would give us an injection, but they didn't tell us what it was. But they said it was even better if it's aborted, because it's a Boko Haram child.
There's more to that, but that's what we are able to bring you here on the program. Gentlemen, once again, you're welcome. I first want to hear your thoughts about, how you felt when this investigative piece first came out. I'll start with you, Patrick.
Yeah, thank you. For me, I would say I wasn't surprised that such publication or such report will come out at this time. When I said at this time, you see, if you follow antecedent, anytime the Nigerian military seems to succeed in the fight against insurgency and terrorism, there seems to be some damning reports that comes out either from Amnesty International or Transparency International, or now Reuters doing this. So I would say that I wasn't surprised, and but as we discuss, then
Very well. I'm going to come back to you in a moment. Dr. Ofoyetan, what would you say?
Thank you very much. I'm most likely going to quote the line of Agbambu. Understanding terrorism and the international influence to terrorism, and especially when it comes to our own domestic terrorism. Many a times, some of us have asked the question, now what is the role of the noise about human rights abuses that comes from international community without a commensurate report also of the dastardly act of the terrorists on the people of communities and villages. Now, if you ask me, what is the end result or the intention of the report as to the fact that 10,000 ladies abortion have been committed on 10,000 rescued girls? Even if you listen to that figure itself, as a woman, you will know that I'm not saying that it is impossible that you have one or two or three of such as a justification. But whether that numerical strength is feasible is one thing. Then secondly, what does Ryota intend to gain at the end of the day? Now, at the end of the day, you are going to have divided opinion. There are those that will say that Ryota is a credible news media from the United Kingdom, and since it's that credible, and they've been on ground for decades, so whatever news that is coming from them is going to be credible. Don't forget that Amnesty International has been a tool at a time, but it got a time that even when you get the feedback, Nigerians are no longer buying into Amnesty International. Transparency International also came with its own. Now there was also the fight back. Now we now have the instrumentality of Router being used. For me, as far as I'm concerned, I'm not convinced. I listened to the report that was played now. I also have read the report from Router. I've read the report and the denial from the military. And at the end of the day, I asked myself a simple question. If the military, if in IDP camps, and the so-called repentant Boko Haram have been giving birth to children, and they didn't kill those children, on what ground we do not commit abortion on those ones that are pregnant? I think as far as some of us are concerned,
I'm going to come back to you. I'm going to come back to you and take you up on your questioning of the 10,000 figure that the report produced. But let me go back to Patrick. Patrick, you mentioned that this will not be the first time it would seem an international organization is coming at the Nigerian army at a time when it appears to be making gains in this fight against insurgency. Now, draw us in by giving us examples when, something of that sort has happened in the past.
Yeah, severally. I date back to 2017 when Transparency International came up with the allegations that the military generals are siphoning monies that are meant to fight insurgency, and reactions came, and it was proven that it's not what they are saying. It just not far after then Amnesty International also came up that there is an extrajudicial killing of some of the Boko Haram suspects by the military, not obeying that the military is not obeying the International Convention on armed conflict. And actually, again, there was a counter. I still remember that BBC came up with a report of introduction of Tabe, a form of arresting suspects. That was also countered. In all these, really, what we notice is that it always comes out at the time when the military is gaining grounds. And I have tried to find out why and what is the intent. Primarily, the intent is to divert the attention of the successes of the military and maybe possibly demoralize the soldiers on the field from carrying out their fight. I'll tell you, there are evidence to prove that some of these international agencies do not want this war to stop. There are so many. I'm a frequent traveler to Northeast, to Maiduguri, to most of even the far north. So I know what I'm talking about. You go to Burma, where there is full restoration of community activities. These people are not happy that people are returning back home. This new pressure, I should say, is because more than 82,000 of these terrorists and with their family members and their foot soldiers that have surrendered.
Right.
The military is not giving them, the state government who are having them in their care is not giving the international agencies the freedom to associate with them and interact with them. And that is why this is coming up. Because these people are being rehabilitated, these people are being settled back to their communities in a family unit pattern, and that is showing that this war, if the successes continue, in few months or few years, the war against insurgency and terrorism in the Northeast will be over.
I see. We'll talk more about that in a moment, but I'll come back to you, Doc. The report did indicate that one of the soldiers they had spoken to mentioned that he alone, over the period under consideration, has committed 3,900 abortions. Based on documents that they had seen, they could correlate and corroborate at least 7,000 of them. They also admit that there could be duplication of abortion, what's the word I'm looking for? Abortion reports. And so they came to the conclusion that, look, 10,000 could be the best estimate. How does that calculation come to you? You questioned the 10,000 figure.
Yes, yes, I did. I questioned not just the 10,000 figure. I actually questioned the veracity and the truthfulness in the whole report. The ladies that were said to be testifying, I want to assume that it's a voiceover. But when you are talking about the voiceover, you should hear the original voice of the witness itself. And if it is the original voice of the witness, you and I know that those are basically British accents. Now that's one aspect to it. You are talking of documents at your disposal. Then the question is, when those abortions are committed, are they documented? Do you have a situation where the medical doctor that is going to commit an abortion on anybody illegally, now in a questionable abortion, would document the process of committing such abortion? Now those are issues that, now those documents that you are talking about, are you saying to it, even as a journalist? Or we just want to believe in what they said because it's coming from Rauta and because it's going to generate some emotion from mothers, from women, knowing full well that, okay, these ladies have gone through the trauma of being in the hand of terrorists and the like. Eventually, they were raped or sexually abused that led to pregnancy. Now, the blackmailing factor will not be, how will you now deprive those mothers of their own, the pregnancy, without their consent. So an average woman, an average mother wants to raise passion and emotion from that perspective. Now that becomes the selling point as far as some of us are concerned. But as those of us that are security agents, security professionals, like Patrick rightly said, look, if you look at the antecedent, you remember that there was a time that Bratai had to warn all NGOs, non-governmental organizations, circles, and the like, that were within the Northeast region, that they should face the call why they were there. If not so, they would be forced out. Remember that there was a time that some of them had to pay as much as 11 years rent in advance. 11 years rent in advance at the wake of terrorism in this country. Yes. And it became a major question to some of us. Why would you, from America, from UK, from France, come to Maiduguri and pay 11 years rent in advance? What is the essence and what is the intention behind all those? So for some of us,
I cannot answer that question, but here's one for you, Patrick. I saw the smirk on your face when I gave you the calculation from the report. I want to hear what you were thinking.
Yeah, I would tell you outrightly that That figure is not just exaggerated; it's non-existent. If you ask me, because I have visited the front lines. I have visited the troops when some of either I made after operations where some women and children are being rescued from the camps of these Boko Haram terrorists, and some women are pregnant. I can tell you how they are being cared for. None of them were harassed or molested. None of them were threatened in any form. They spent their money. And talking about the soldier who said he had carried out about 3,000 abortions, I will tell you outright that that is false. That is not true. Because from what I know, I don't know if routers have visited the front line. The military facilities to take care of such activities is not readily available that every soldier will be able to carry out that operation. They have specialized medical team who are at the who are at the locations at their base. They don't go in, have most times more interaction with these people except to provide first aid attention to them and when they are being rescued before they are being handed over to the state government for care. So outrightly, I would say that that is a make-up story. And that figure, it's non-existent.
Very
There
well.
could be one or two women that may have a miscarriage either due to the trauma of having experienced such and all that. Because when you visit, when you are witness a scene, a real lifetime armed conflict, then you will know what we are talking about. There could be some trauma, but not that it is an agreed act to abort or to kill any child. Remember that the Nigerian military have also participated in several other peacekeeping missions, peace or support missions in several countries where there are no of such allegations. So how wonder that they will be doing it in their own country. So there are a lot of questions to be asked on this so-called report.
And one of the questions I want to ask now is, both of you have, defended the Nigerian army and said there's no possibility of this happening. But also, where there's fire, there's smoke, right? And so what are the chances of this happening covertly amongst the army ranks, particularly where they mentioned Giwa Barracks? I'll start with you, Patrick.
Okay. Yeah, you see, I will tell you outrightly that there's no way routers or his agents will have access to Giwa Barracks. Giwa Barracks is not accessible to anybody to get such information. I know the vicinity of Giwa Barracks. We know the extent one can get, and it's not possible for them to get such information in Giwa Barracks. That is one. Then to talk about whether there could be possibilities, like I mentioned earlier, either a miscarriage could have been carried out, could have occurred because of the trauma of experiencing such a situation by this. So that it's possible. It's not that we are defending. For me, I'm not defending. If the military had committed such, I would come out to say, because Security Watch Africa is independent. But really, I think that for the position of hindsight, from having known how these operations are carried out, and
yes.
I know that.
But Patrick, how many miscarriages can happen to get to an alarming point?
No, I wouldn't tell. I say it could possible, but it's not that it's something that happened, and it's not a state affair, and it's something that could be a medical issue, but not that anybody in the military will carry out any abortion or agree. Mm-hmm. But again, mind you, there are some agencies, some civil societies or humanitarian agencies who are carrying out what they call self-abortion across Nigeria. We have the Planned Parenthood Federation. We have so many, the Doctors Without Borders, who are operating independently of this military. Or if that is carried out, the military is not to the military knowledge, it's not to the state knowledge. And so we must situate what is being done, and not just lump everything together and say that it's a military or it's a state of. And also, the state government was also being accused in that report. I read the report. I've watched some of the videos, and I can tell you that everything content there is a very good storyline for a movie.
Interesting. Now, I want us to look at the Army's response. And I'm coming to you, Doc. I see you smiling also. So let me come to you on this one. The Army's position is denial, and it's very reminiscent of things that the Army's reaction to accusations of this nature in the past. Is denial enough?
Well, denial may not be enough, but in situations where the storyline from router is not, for some of us, it's not very convincing, I want to pitch my tent with the denial as it is presently. That is not an exoneration as far as I'm concerned. It doesn't mean that there may not be compromise, there may not be issues in one way or the other. But a one-off situation, or maybe 1, 2, 3 situations, will not, bring such a hue and cry. If you look at what Router had done, and you ask the question, what is the end result, or what is the end intended result? Is it that you have been able to identify one of the doctors? Have you been able to identify any of the military officers? And is there any evidence other than the fact that you said that you interrogated 1 or 2 people and all those stuff like that? And we are not convinced as far as some of us are. I'm just not, like Patrick said, it's just like acting a script for a movie. It doesn't look too real to me. If it's real, some of us, we are blunt enough to say, look, as far as I'm concerned, what the military has done is actually true, so to say. But for now, I am not too sure I want to pitch my tent with Router. And I don't think I want to go with that propaganda.
Gentlemen,
I don't think I want to go with that.
Gentlemen, let's talk more about the military's response and generally about reintegration of people who are rescued from insurgent groups when we return. Stay with us. Welcome back to Village Square Africa. I am Keminni Amanor. We are still discussing the latest Reuters investigative piece that accuses the Nigerian army of infanticide and forced abortions. Still with us are Patrick Agbambu and Dr. Tony Ofoyetan. And Patrick, I'm coming to you now. One of the things that the report notes is the fact that some of those at the helm of affairs in the army now were also in charge, at a time that, the infanticide and the abortions began. The report mentions the defense chief, Lucky Irabo. And so my question is, it would seem a natural thing, if you were in charge of counterterrorism operations and these things clandestinely took place, for you to deny its existence, wouldn't it, Patrick?
Yeah, well, I know that Lucky Irabo was a theater commander at the operations there in the Northeast as at that time when this is what they have been talking about. But we must give credit to whom credit is due. Lucky Irabo carried out his responsibility diligently, and today he's the chief of defense staff, which is a good rising for him. And one thing that I like with the military statement is that they have offered themselves for independent confirmation for any international. They've called on international organizations, credible international organizations, and statutory international organizations that want to find out the true situations, who want to visit, that it's free for them to check. They didn't say that you cannot do anything, and they have asked for people to check. That is good, and I believe that once it's sincerely done, that the truth of this will come out. But from what we know, I know that General Irabo as a person would not come to deny if he actually did that. But he never, I must tell you, is a man who is passionate about children. I have been with him in 1 or 2 occasions. I have visited when he was at the theater there, when he was the theater commander. I was there. We can see the passion when they rehabilitate children. And so a man who can take care of such children cannot sit over abortion of some children and all what allegations that these people are talking about. Mind you, one of the allegations in that report is that even children that are saved after which that the military will also kill them. I must tell you that this is not true. It's not denial from the military, but it's a statement of fact because I know that this didn't happen.
Very well. Doc,
Yeah, I'm with you.
could this be the beginning of a cover-up?
Well, I don't want to think that we are talking of a cover-up here. Not at all. You are talking of massive abortion of 10,000 human beings. It's not something you can cover up. Don't forget that mothers are very passionate about their own children. It's something that you would have been seeing on your own social media. It's not going to be something that a router will tell you. No. Out of 10,000 women, you can't silence 10,000 women. It's not possible. It's not possible that you have 1, 2, or 3 of them. This is an era where secrets cannot be covered for that long. So when you are talking about cover-up, I don't think so. Rather, as far as I'm concerned, I actually expect that the military should take a very stern action. If possible, institute an action against Rauta, because I see it as a pure defamation. Yes, they should take a step beyond just mere denial or refutal of such reports and institute an action. The Rauta has a known address. It's a known news media worldwide. They should be able to take it beyond the issue of. I think that is what would also further clear the doubts of pessimists and those that think that maybe it is possible and maybe there is a cover-up and the like. If the military is able to take that step, it would also clear such doubts further. But some of us are very convinced that it is just, it's more of lies than truth.
Very well. Now, so here's my other question to you, Doc. What else should the military be doing besides denying and pursuing Reuters? Should it also start to look within and ask the question? Because even one forced abortion is a problem. One infanticide or one killing of a child is a problem. Should they look into their own ranks?
Yes, I think you are right about that, because there are what we call participant criminals, and there are others that are just mere agents. They are either espionage, and they could also commit a crime in the name of the military, in their personal capacity, and also bring it to fore in such a manner that it begins to justify the position of Rauta. So what I expect the military to do is to do an internal audit, do an internal investigation, and ask if there are any military officers within the setting, either in the medical team, in any of the camps, or in any of the barracks, that have done a similitude of any of such things that becomes a justification for the position of Rauta. So at that point in time, you bring such people out as a scapegoat. Now, because if at the end of the day you have one, just one, and you are talking of forced abortion, it doesn't make any difference even whether there are 10,000 or 20,000 again. The whole world will be looking at just that one. And that is why the military should not look inward and ask itself a simple question. Has there been any doctor among us that is on the payroll of international sponsors, on the payroll of those that are sponsoring domestic terrorism against this country, and just feel that this is also one of the strategies to pull down the government? And it has been able to do this successfully and now brought the news to Rauta to put in public. I think that would actually also be a curative measure.
Very well. Patrick, I want to come to you with the burden of responsibility for the executive arm of governance in Nigeria. What do you expect the presidency to be doing now?
Yeah, I expect the presidency to actually take it up seriously by, just like my brother did say, Tony, encourage the military to carry out an internal audit and investigation to find out whether any individual, but since it's not an organizational thing, whether any individual, any personnel in the military had carried out this as either as an expression of grievance, of anger, or as a belief in his faith, or as a fear. Because yes, I'll tell you that there are some fears that, look, that a child of a terrorist may grow up tomorrow to become a terrorist, and whether one or two personnel or whether two officer or soldier could say, look, so why should I keep Why should I keep the child of a terrorist who had killed so many innocent people, killed my colleagues? Why don't I encourage him to be eliminated? Let them find out. There are many things to be investigated, and I'm sure that the Nigerian military will not object to that. It must be carried out, and it's important. Other than making a statement to say, yes, we didn't do it, there's need for the executive body, the government, to encourage this to be carried out. And again, I want to also maybe encourage the executive body to not just keep quiet. They must speak. It's not the responsibility of the military to defend itself in a matter like this. The executive must speak after finding out that the military did not do this. They are the ones that will speak. Military role is not to start bantering or exchanging communication with the media. It is the government agencies that are concerned that should be doing that. That is what I expect.
I'm glad you went there with asking, the executive body to speak. The silence, the long silence from the executive arm, how do you think this will be viewed by its international partners? Patrick.
Yeah, I tell you that to some of us here in Nigeria, we are not too convinced, we are not too impressed with media management or information management from the government because when there's need to react or being proactive, they keep silent. Yes, again, I will understand that some, maybe they are carrying out their own investigations so that to be able to come out with more authentic information than rushing out with a statement that may be proven wrong later. Yes, this is possible, but we think that keeping silent or not coming out to say, look, we are looking into it, may give some kind of justification or some bite to those who may want to believe that this is possible. But I can tell you from somebody who has visited the front line several times and visited even the Giwa barracks that you mentioned, that this didn't happen. While we wait for the government to say something, which I encourage them to quickly do, and so the military will face their work, which is to provide security and protect the territorial integrity of Nigeria. We must condemn that report because I'm sure that very, very certain that it's not the truth report.
Doc, I want to come to you now on what this could do to U.S.-Nigeria military relations. We've heard from the Department of State expressing its disappointment and encouraging the government to look into the accusations. How do you think this could affect U.S.-Nigeria military relations?
Well, I don't see, it depends. If there are convincing if there are convincing evidence, the government will be aware of it. Both parties will be aware of it. The Nigerian-American military relationship would not be affected in any way whatsoever. Don't forget that each country has the national survival policy. So it is what pays each country that it does. And when it comes to relationship, be it military or international or foreign relations, it is, national interest that comes to play. If America thinks very seriously and believes that they have more to gain from Nigeria, there are a lot of things that will come to compromise. And if they think that, well, they don't have much to gain, then you now have the noise. So as far as I'm concerned, it has nothing to do with the Nigerian military relationship. America is in business. Nigeria is meant to protect itself. America is not meant to protect Nigeria. Whatever America is going to do to Nigeria is ultimately to the benefit of America as a nation. It can be beneficial to Nigeria to the extent of the negotiation and the understanding of the relationship. So as far as I'm concerned, it's neither here nor there. It's going to be a matter of, which, if you remember, there was a time we were talking about purchase of arms. And the American government was also part.
I think we lost Doc over there. And so, Patrick, I'll come to you. Just a couple more things that I want us to look at before we wrap up on our conversation today. I believe the report has thrown light on stigmatization and discrimination that comes with reintegration of people who surrender to the Nigerian army or people who are rescued from insurgent groups. It also throws light on the fact that we seem to have a problem as far as data collection is concerned, when it comes to, the entire military process in dealing with rescued people. Patrick, you have dealt directly with rescued people and the Army. Talk to us about our ability to collect data and how we can improve that.
I will agree with you that a big challenge we have here in Nigeria is the issue of data collection, because we are trying to learn the ropes and get it right. But because sometimes when people brandish some figures, I also query because how do they collect those figures? But I want to tell you that in terms of figure and in terms of those that are surrendering, I will tell you that so far there's no fault. There's nothing to fault about because as these people are coming out from their various camps, particularly from Sambisa Aziz, the troops are there to receive them, and data are being collected, and various households are being marked where they belong to because there are people to identify them very clearly. I have been at the point where some of them are just coming out fresh from the forest and where they're being collected. Over there, there's no dispute about figures. It's been done correctly. And I must give kudos to the military in doing that, and also the state government, because they have actually, as we speak right now, they are the one taking care of the more than 82,000 people that have actually surrendered. Homes have been provided currently as we speak for more than 3,000 family units where they are living at the Hajj camp and being catered for by the state government. And that really is what I must say is surprising to some of these international agencies, because they are wondering how is this being done without help from the NGOs offering help. So, but data collection, it's been an issue, but in terms of stigmatization that you mentioned earlier, it's natural because I've been in a situation whereby one of those who surrendered and being processed, a citizen complained, look, you killed my mother, you killed my relatives, I will not accept you into the society. But with the intervention of the state government and the military, that is being resolved. Right now, as we speak,
Very well.
there are moves to speak up.
I apologize for cutting you. I would have loved to hear more and hear from Doc as well, but we're just having to deal with breaking news right now. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us on The Square.